Hi, and welcome to The Curling Show, the podcast that brings you interviews with the sport's top athletes and the people who shape the game. I'm Dean Gemmel, and just a few days after we talked to Marc Kennedy as he was on his way to a world championship, we talked to a woman who captured one just a couple of weeks ago. Of course, they're both headed to St. John's this weekend for the Tylenol Players Championship, the season's final Capital One Grand Slam, and your last measure of great curling on Canadian television this year. The skip of the 2005 Canadian Women's Champions, but I'm guessing she likes skip of the 2008 Women's World Champions a lot better. Jennifer Jones, welcome to The Curling Show.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
First, congratulations on a gutsy run through both the Scotties Tournament of Hearts and the Ford Canada Worlds in Vernon. Did the fact that it was never an easy journey make it in the end more rewarding?
I think any time that you're able to win the Canadians and the Worlds is going to be rewarding. But yeah, we had to fight from behind a few times, and I think we're pretty proud of how we kept our heads high and we were so determined to win, and I think that's something that we'll always reflect on.
You know, your own performance was really clutch. Your last two shots against Sherry Madai, your last two shots against Shannon Kleibrink, and your dead freeze against Mo Magaro's Team Japan were all pretty much must-makes, and you made them all perfectly. For the many junior curlers who listen to this podcast, and for the rest of us who aren't so good under pressure, what's in your head in those situations?
Honestly, I don't think of anything but making the shot. And you don't think about the situation or what will happen if you miss it. You just think about what you have to do, and really, I'm just so thankful for the opportunity all the time. I always tell my team, we just need a shot to win, and that's all you can hope for. So when you have it, you got to be thankful for that, and that's really all I think about. So, we're lucky enough that I was in those situations. My team gave me a chance, and you don't want to let those opportunities slip by very often.
Of those shots, was there one that you were less confident on than any others? I mean,
No.
The dead freeze, to me, that was about the best freeze I've seen all year.
No, that's probably one of the best shots I've ever made, was that freeze, and it's not very glamorous. It's not an in-off. It's not very exciting, but that's one shot that I'll always look back on, and I mean that was a championship right there, and we knew it, and the girls swept it from my hand perfectly. So, but no, there wasn't one that I didn't feel good about. The freeze was just a draw to the button, really, and I mean the one against Shannon Kleibrink, obviously, was a really tough port. That was probably one that we knew we had to get by the guard pretty tight. So that was probably the one that was in my head, thinking that it was a hard one to make.
Hey, one other shot. You made a shot against Debbie McCormick through a port that frankly I didn't think was there, and I don't think Kathy thought it was there. Is that true that she didn't think there was a hole there?
Yeah, I don't think she thought there was a hole, but it was funny because when the rock came to rest, I said, well, I think we've got to try it, and it looked tight from the house, but I thought it was there, and Kathy kind of said, well, what hole? And I said, well, this hole, and then I went down to the other end, and the hole didn't really look there, but I just convinced myself if I threw it at the broom with the right weight that there was a hole, and I think there was barely a hole, but we made it through, and it definitely, I think that was a really big turning point in our week for us. It was a huge game for us to win, and obviously it was one of the big comebacks of the week.
Were you surprised when she tried to follow you through that?
Yeah, I was actually. I thought she would have played a tap, but like I said, it was a pretty tight hole. I haven't seen a replay of it, so it felt tight and it looked tight on when it was live, but I don't think there was much room on either rock. So if I was her, I probably would have played the tap. If she makes it half decent, I've got to make a double just for the tie to go to the extra. So that's the shot that I would have played.
Yeah, even if she makes it half, it makes your shot tougher. So
right, like we would have had a shot for the tie, maybe a shot for the win, but chances are we're playing an extra.
Hey, besides your team's ability to battle back at the Worlds, the big story was, of course, Team China. You had seen them on the ASHM World Curling Tour, but going into Vernon, did you expect them to perform as well as they did?
We did. We talked about the Japanese and the Chinese, thinking that they would likely be contenders. I probably thought they would have been, 7-4, but they went out and just played great. I don't think those girls missed a draw all week, and they had that draw to the button during the game, before the game, anytime. They would just put it right on the lid every single time, and they swept it perfect. It was actually very impressive to watch how much they had improved, and obviously playing in Canada has really helped them.
speaking of that, Dan Raphael coaches Team China, one of many Canadians coaching international rinks. And during the TSN coverage, Ray Turnbull opined that he thought Canadians shouldn't be coaching teams from other countries. Linda and Vic seemed too terrified to say anything once he said that. Can you weigh in with an opinion?
You know what? It's funny. I haven't really thought too much about it. I've heard people talk about it after the event, and I really don't know if I have an opinion on it. I mean, there's obviously two sides to the story. One is that it's great because I think obviously Canadians have, the curling is a passion of ours, and I think that we have so many talented people here to help the world and teach the world. And the more the world grows with curling, the better that it's going to be for the sport. But in the same sense, it's tough to see. I want Canada to win, and I want us to win all the time. And if we can keep a leg up on our competition, I think that's good for us. But there's just not that much money for coaching in Canada, and I think you're going to see coaches go, to other countries to coach, and it's just a question of how much we allow them to use our facilities and train here, because I think we have the best facilities in the world.
Marc Kennedy brought up that, and he agreed there were two sides to it, but he did in some level agree with Ray on this podcast. I think some of it has to do just with the fact it's China. It seems like China competes with a different business model, and now they have a different curling model, and to some people that's unsettling. Mark talked about coming into Saville Center, and the Chinese team has probably been there all day reviewing video, and I can see the human, part of it where it's frustrating. Does it frustrate you when you go to an event and you're lugging a laptop to look at legal briefs and you're playing a team that's been curling all the time?
You know what, yeah, in an ideal world, we'd curl 24 hours a day, well, not 24 hours a day, but we curl full time, but it's just not a reality for us in Canada yet, and, I think you see the Chinese team, the Japanese team, the Russian team, I believe Denmark maybe, they all know they're going to the Olympic Games, so their government's behind them, and that's the team that's going. Whereas in Canada, we've got a dozen teams that could go to the Olympics. So
that's the real point, isn't it? You couldn't fund one team.
Yeah, so we have to support all of these teams, and we're all talented, and we all have the capability to go to the Olympics. So I don't know where you draw the line, but that's the biggest difference, is that this is their job. It's a full-time job that the government is behind, and the government's basically their employer. They know that this is what they're going to be doing for a few years, and we're just plugging away trying to qualify for the Olympic trials, and then we'll see who goes. So I don't know what the answers are, but yeah, it's tough to balance. I think curling is becoming a lot more intense. There's a lot more events to play in. It's a lot more time away from work, and trying to find an employer that supports that can be very challenging, and it's also hard to balance at an event.
My thing is I want to see the game grow around the world. The only thing that does concern me is if the countries that are doing really well only have 5 curlers, backed by a government, and they don't really grow the sport in their country. So
I agree.
I don't know how the WCF balances that.
Yeah, and I don't know how they can either, but I agree with you, because the whole idea is growing the sport, and some, right now, if there's not very many curlers in the country, it's really just all about getting that Olympic medal. And I think, there's more to sport than medaling. It's about, really appreciating what the sport has to offer and seeing how amazing curling can be. And if that's not going to happen, then there's got to try to brainstorm and find out ways that we can increase the popularity so more people are playing.
Exactly. Hey, you bring up a good point with the Olympics, and your second, Jill Officer, took issue in the pages of the Curling News this year with Wayne Middaugh's statement that the Olympics had ruined curling, a verb he later softened a bit. But
I didn't even know Jill said that.
Oh, no, Jill didn't say it ruined it, Wayne did. And then Jill countered in the pages of the Curling News, which apparently you're not reading your second's columns. I
try not to read very much of the paper, good or bad, because I've learned from a lot of experience that most of it's not true. So
even what Jill writes.
Oh, well, I don't know about that. Well, I talk to Jill all the time, so I don't need to read her columns.
All right. Well, anyway, she said she was defiantly against Wayne's statement, basically. I can see both sides of the argument. I think you just pointed it out here. Do you put any stock in Wayne's argument that the Olympics have sort of changed the game, not all for the better?
I don't know about that. It depends on how you view the Olympics, and the Olympic Games are the epitome of sport. So the fact that curling is included in that category, I think, is fantastic. What I was saying though about some countries just going out for medals, I don't know if that's true or not, but, and I think maybe that will change if they see success in the Olympics. You're going to see young people in those countries get excited about it. I think, the Olympics definitely brings around increased popularity and higher media attention, so that's all good for the sport. The only negative, I think, is that curling is becoming, like I said before, it's a lot more than it used to be. It's a lot more traveling, a lot more demanding. There's countries getting better, and so we have to put way more work in to keep up and to keep that step up on everybody else. But that's so much fun. So if you're willing to put in the work, I think it's well worth it. But it's definitely a lot more demanding than it used to be.
Yeah, and the Olympics have certainly legitimized the sport. I think, if anything, it's a problem with the Olympic movement. It's sort of like governments have gotten away from the original intentions of the Olympics, and now it's all this race for medals. And it used to be an international festival of sorts, and now everybody's just crazy for medals.
Yeah. I mean, all the countries want a medal, but I think really when you look at the Olympics and you talk to people that have experienced the Olympics, some of the greatest moments are the closing ceremonies and the interaction with the athletes. And so I don't think it's all lost. I think it's what's viewed by by the media sometimes, and it's about medaling. But I think really the Olympics is what brings together all of these nations in an amazing atmosphere to compete for your country, and that's quite something.
Yeah, there has been a lot of criticism of the women's game the last few years, but I really thought this year's Scotties and the Women's Worlds provided what fans want, which was good shot making and loads of drama.
We like our games close.
Yeah. Do you think the play was better this year, or do you think in the past people just haven't given it a fair shake?
I don't know. I thought the play has been pretty good the last couple of years. I thought the 2005 Scott final was exciting. But yeah, I think the play is getting better. I think the women's teams are getting more aggressive and getting better. And you're seeing it on the ice. They're getting a lot more confident to call and make big shots, and that's great for the women's game. And definitely this year, the Scotties, I thought the field played great. We had a lot of great games, and I know the ones that we weren't playing and that we watched were pretty exciting to watch. So in the Worlds this year, I thought the caliber of play from all teams was really good. I mean, obviously Czech Republic, it was their second Worlds, and they're working on improving. But even them, I was pretty impressed with their strategy and their thought process and their technical ability. So it's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, Canadians that don't want to see the game grow on the world should remember that the world championships used to be pretty dull to watch.
Yeah, like I think I can't really remember a lot of the championships where it wasn't exciting, but I'm such a huge curling fan. But you're right,
when
the
used
world
to be exciting finals, but the round robin, there
yeah,
might be two or
true.
three good teams. But.
Yeah, you're probably right on that, and obviously Paisley is my only other on-ice experience, and that wasn't all that exciting. So.
That was fairly miserable, wasn't it?
It was pretty miserable, yeah, and I don't think that the play was very good. The ice was just didn't allow for it, so it was all in all pretty frustrating, but very. I don't like to complain about it because it was still amazing. If that was the only time I had gotten to go to a World Championship, I still would have been proud of that. So.
I still think it was awful. It was miserable.
It was.
I mean, you were playing in a place called the Lagoon. I mean, how they put a curling sheet in there was beyond me. And then you had no clocks. I mean, it was a disaster.
Well, we had to. Our change room was a unisex change room where people would change to go to the pool.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah. So you go in there and
so you're surrounded by Scottish men in Speedos, I imagine.
You got it. Yeah, that was our pregame warm up.
That is dark, really dark.
Yeah, and there was puddles of water on the floor from people getting out of the pool, and yeah, it was.
Gosh.
But it was what it was, and the people we met, our drivers were phenomenal, and so that's something. They still email us, and they were absolutely phenomenal, and the people were great. It's just that there wasn't that many people.
All right. Well, enough about
I think
Paisley.
one game actually it was only Canadian fans in the stands, and it was just our family. So
unbelievable. Well, that's ancient history now, I guess. So,
yeah, it is.
And I think the WCF has learned from that, I hope. But anyways.
Yeah.
Hey, Jennifer, we know that Canadian curling fans can be a tough lot to please. There's always those that didn't care for Colleen Jones. Mainly, it seemed because she had the audacity to chew gum, I think. But in the last 2 years, you've had situations that had fans fired up. My question isn't whether you would have done anything differently, but rather were you surprised by the intensity of the reactions?
You know what? That's hard for me to comment on because I haven't really read. I don't read a lot of that stuff, and I don't really know what people were saying or not saying. But Yeah, you know what? I think it's exciting that people get so fired up about things, because that means that we're doing something right. That means that the sport is doing something right, that people are so passionate about it. And, you know, our problem is that we're very private, and I'm quite shy, actually, and so, you know, we're not very outspoken about why we're doing things or what we're doing, and we don't often get into a lot of detail, so people, you know, make assumptions, and you know, unfortunately, some are true, some aren't true, and you kind of live with that. But, you know, I think any type of media attention that curling can get is good, and if that, whatever it is, it's all good for the sport. And, you know, sometimes you're going to get people behind you. Some people are going to criticize what you're doing. You can't make everybody happy, but I can honestly say that, you know, we do the best we can, and we're just going out there. And when I signed up for curling years ago, I never thought that we'd be in the public spotlight, and all of a sudden you find yourself in it, and that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that you guys you're quiet and you don't maybe provide a lot of information. I've often thought what you really needed was just a good public relations manager.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know what, and yeah, you know, but I think for the most part, like you know, we have so many people that support us that, you know, and yeah, that it at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I think if you're going to have people that don't support you, that's great. That means that you're doing something out there that people are talking about. And
well, that's a good point. I think, you know, in the World Curling Tour, in the ISHM World Curling Tour, and in the Capital One Grand Slam events, I think what needs to happen is people have to like a team and not like a team for fans to really get engaged. Yeah,
and you know, you can't. Not everybody's going to like you, and you can't make people like you. And unfortunately, like I'm just not one to get into a big public debate in a newspaper, and you know, that's just my nature. I'm very, very private and shy, and I know it doesn't come across that way on TV, but I am, and so is the rest of the team. So, you know, people are going to think what they're going to think, and unfortunately they form opinions based on not all of the facts, or maybe facts that aren't exactly accurate, but that's just how people are going to work and act, and that's great. I mean, if that's how if it creates excitement for the sport, then, you know, I guess we've added something.
There you go. Hey, you have the Players' Championship next weekend. Do you think it will be easier from here on out to play well knowing you're the first team that's directly in the Olympic trials, or are you worried that a bit of complacency might set in?
I don't know. Right now, we're still on cloud nine. I don't think I've stopped smiling in 2 weeks, and my cheeks are kind of getting sore, actually. But, you know, we'll go to the Players' Championship, and that's one event that we just want to go. You know, we won the Canadian Championships in St. John's in 2005, and we have so many good friends there we're so excited to catch up with, and they've been cheering pretty hard for us. So I think we're just going to go to St. John's and see what happens, and you know, obviously we'd like to defend our title. It's a big event, but and then next year, like, I'm not worried about complacency with our team. We're definitely competitors, and we love to play, love to compete, and we want to get better. So I'm not worried about that for next year. I don't know what's going to happen in St. John's, but hopefully we'll go out and play tough.
You know, another thing you can do is what John Meade once mentioned that teams used to do in the old MCA spiel is try to keep a team out of the provincials. You know, you can make it a little more difficult for other teams that might give you trouble.
Yeah.
You haven't thought about that, right?
No, I haven't.
You're not that evil.
God, people think about a lot of things. Yeah, I have no idea. But well, yeah,
there you go.
Go and just, I don't know.
You can make teams play tougher schedules. But anyways, just a thought on my part, but nonetheless. Hey, Jennifer, we end with something I call the run back. I give you a topic, and you give me your thoughts on it in 1 to 3 words.
I'm a lawyer. I can't do 1 to 3 words. Come on, I got to.
You know what?
I'm just kidding.
I had Marc Kennedy on this week, and he swore he was going to do 1 to 3 words, and he almost did.
Okay, I'll see what I can do.
Usually it's my fault, to be honest. All right, here we go. A Team Canada at the Tim Hortons Brier.
Agree. Wonderful for the game.
Playing a Worlds in Vernon, British Columbia.
The most amazing experience of my life. I know it's more than 3 words, sorry.
Playing a Worlds in Paisley, Scotland.
An honor, but a disappointment.
Kelly Scott.
A great player.
Team China's celebration when they beat you in the round robin.
I missed it, and I still haven't seen it.
Are you
but
serious?
I think, yeah, but good for them. You know what? What a big win for them, and they should have celebrated.
Yeah, I didn't think it was. You know, they were excited. I mean, and they should.
We didn't care.
Yeah.
Like,
so,
I mean,
Jill almost got hit with a broom, but other than that, it was.
Yeah, I was going to say Jill almost took it in the head, but other than that, so I missed it. But you know what? Absolutely, that's a big win for their country. We weren't offended by it, and they all came and apologized after their. Yeah. So no problem at all.
They were human, that's all. Hey,
Absolutely.
the jingles that all event organizers in Canada seem to feel they're required to use in their marketing and advertising efforts.
I haven't heard them. I don't know.
You're like the unreachable media person. Do you consume any media?
Well, no, do I watch any media?
Do you consume any media? Do you read the newspaper?
Well,
Do you watch
I have to read I have to read the business section for my job, but I work pretty much every second of the day that I'm not curling, so it's pretty tough to stay on top of it. But the jingles, I think that's catchy and what curling is all about.
Okay, well, I'll disagree there because I think they're horrendous.
You can sing me one, and then I'll tell you.
Well, that one for next year in Victoria is like road.
I haven't seen it yet.
They're all the same.
How am I supposed to see it when I'm curling all the time?
Well, there you go. But it's like they use the same music house to do them, and there's no reason to have these 70s jingles. I mean, we got to modernize the game a little bit.
Well, I'll watch it, and then I'll form an opinion. How's that?
Yeah, true lawyer.
We're going to have some WWF music, or
well, I don't know. We may not need any music. We need not. Okay. There's plenty of great advertising that has no music. So that's all I'm saying.
Okay.
It's time to stop with the jingles. Anyways, and finally, earning another trip to the Continental Cup.
Very exciting, and I know it's not your favorite event.
Oh, so you've actually listened to this podcast?
No, Jill told me that.
Oh. I was going to say maybe my media had crept in, but apparently not.
Actually, I've listened to a couple of your podcasts.
All right.
I have. Yes, I have. But no, very exciting. And as much as you say you don't like the event, it was a thrill.
I know it's great for the players. Here's my only beef with it. The only reason to do it is it's a made-for-TV event, and it's the worst curling on television all year. So.
I know, but I think now that TSN's back with it, and they're going to show it from start to finish, that it might get a little bit more excitement. And I have to tell you that the mixed skin was one of the most. That was the best event I've played in. It was great.
Well,
I
fun
got
to
play
play
with
the
Glenn
shots.
Howard and Brent Lang.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
I agree. And
they got to play with Jennifer Jones and Kathy Overton. I think. I don't know if it was as cool for them, but it was pretty cool for us.
Nobody respects the players more than I do, so I'm glad you guys get a good trip. But if I was like the VP of marketing at Kellogg's and I didn't know much about curling, and I turned that on, and then somebody else phoned me for a sponsorship, I'd be like, curling? I saw a bit of that. I don't know. So, anyways, there's my beef with it. But you guys next year maybe you'll make it exciting.
Well, yeah, it was exciting this year, but
oh, come on. I suffered through the whole thing. It was excruciating.
Oh no, it was fun to play and and getting to know the play, because it's you get to know a lot of the players. We don't see a lot of European men's anymore because there's obviously the World Championships aren't combined. So it was great to get to know them and meet some new friends, and obviously get to know some of the Canadian men a bit better. And Kelly Scott and I were teammates, so that kind of holy smokes, that big rivalry there. And
yeah, the one we try to stoke, but doesn't seem to happen now.
I know, you media people always have to talk about something.
Well, Kelly
we
Scott,
were sitting beside each other on the bench one day. I don't know. I thought that was going to be on the headline.
I'll divulge something here. Kelly Scott, David Letterman used to want to have Oprah Winfrey on his show, and she would never come on. Kelly Scott is my Oprah Winfrey.
Oh, she won't come on?
No, she was. Well, to full disclosure here, she did. She was actually. I had her in an interview once, and she didn't like the way it went. So, she's never cared for me since.
Well, you media guys can be tough sometimes.
I know. See, I'm treating you with kid gloves as a result.
Oh.
See that? So.
Well, yeah. Well, then next time you'll be mean. So maybe
exactly.
I won't want it. This will maybe be my one and only,
exactly.
my swan song here.
Yeah.
So.
All right, Jennifer.
Anyway, thanks very much.
Give everybody a chance to name their sponsors too. So.
Oh, wonderful. Obviously, Monsanto Canada is one of our great sponsors, tremendous sponsor of curling, including the Season of Champions, and Wellington West Capital, where I work. They also sponsor us. Asham Curling Supplies, fantastic to us for years. And obviously Sport Canada helps us out a little bit.
All right, Jennifer, congratulations again, and good luck next weekend in the Players' Championship.
Thank you very much.
That's Jennifer Jones on The Curling Show. Even if you're enjoying spring weather in Canada this weekend, don't forget to tune in the Tylenol Players' Championship from St. John's, where not only cash is at stake, but Canadian Olympic trial spots are certainly in the mix as well. Thanks for listening. Enjoy some black pudding.